A scared canine cowered in a corner, avoiding any contact with both people and fellow shelter dogs. The shelter staff expressed concern for the despondent animal, but their worries were eased when a compassionate veterinarian intervened and performed an act that will tug at your heartstrings. Day by day, the people who take care of animals at the shelter became more and more worried about one dog. This dog always sat alone in a corner, looking really scared and not happy. You could see the sadness in its sad black eyes. They kept doing this for a few days, not wanting to play like the other dogs. But there was a reason why this dog felt so scared. One cold morning, a person who worked at the animal shelter found the dog under a parked car while going to work. The dog was hiding there. The man spoke to the dog kindly and softly, asking it to come out, but the dog just looked away. The man could tell that the dog was really scared and uncomfortable. He got down to the dog's level and told it that he wanted to help. Even then, the dog didn't say anything. But the man knew the dog needed help, so he couldn't leave it alone under the car. Carefully, he dragged the dog out of its hiding place. The poor animal, clearly exhausted and hungry, didn't fight back, maybe because it didn't have the strength to. It kept its head down as the man carried it into his car and gently placed it on the front seat. But the dog wasn't comfortable staying next to the man. It seemed to dread close human contact, so it quickly jumped to the back seat and sat on the floor, making sure to position itself in a way that the man wouldn't see it. Upon reaching the shelter, the dog sought solace in a corner where he began whimpering. The staff members tried to engage the dog in different fun activities. They gave him toys and even tried to play a game of catch with the dog. But despite their attempts to lift the dog's spirits, he didn't show any interest. Based on the dog's unresponsiveness, the staff guessed that he might have had a very rough past. A few days had passed since the dog was rescued and brought to the shelter, and he still hadn't shown any signs of improvement. One day, the dog fell sick. He had contracted an infection. The shelter staff administered treatment, hoping it would bring relief. But as time went on, it became apparent that the dog's condition was deteriorating. He was also rapidly losing weight, and he couldn't really afford to. The staff became worried that the dog might not make it. Knowing they needed to act fast, they took the lonely four-legged animal to a veterinary clinic where he could get the extra special help he needed. When the dog entered the examination room at the animal clinic, his fear was obvious. He rushed to a corner, his eyes looking very anxious. When Dr. Thomas, the vet, entered the room to assess the dog's condition, the dog tucked his tail between his legs and backed away, whimpering. It was clear to Dr. Thomas that the dog was suffering emotionally. Perhaps his previous owners had treated him unfairly, so the poor doggy was scared to trust humans again. He knew that the first step to helping this poor animal recover would be to create a special bond with him. So Dr. Thomas started checking on the dog often and spending more time with him, just talking to him. After a few days, the dog's health improved a bit, even though he still disliked any form of human interaction and preferred to stand in his lonely corner. Still, the dog had come a long way, so Dr. Thomas knew his approach was working. One particular day, Dr. Thomas held a bowl of treats in his hand and sat a few meters away from the dog's corner. The veterinarian had a special plan in mind. He wanted to encourage the dog to leave his hiding place and discover the world around him. So he held out the bowl of treats as an invitation, hoping that the dog would be curious enough to come out. Dr. Thomas wasn't in a hurry. He waited patiently, letting the dog choose one to come out. The vet knew the dog would feel more in control. The treats were like a little reward, a tasty incentive to help the dog take that first step. As the dog peeked from his corner, smelling the delicious treats, his growing curiosity got the better of him. Maybe it wasn't so scary out there. After all, slowly and cautiously, the dog ventured out, step by step, coming closer to the vet and the bowl of treats. Using a gentle tone, the veterinarian began to speak to the dog. The pup ate only a few treats and immediately ran back to his hiding place. The vet wasn't disappointed. He knew that it would take time before the dog overcame his fears and doubts. Meanwhile, Dr. Thomas located the dog's owner. It turned out the dog's owner had passed away a little while ago, and the pup had been left in the care of some of his owner's family members who moved into the house. They had been very cruel to the dog, locking him up in a cage and starving him most of the time. They hated the fact that the dog had become withdrawn and less playful after his owner had died. They felt the dog wouldn't listen to their commands. He would go into his owner's room and disrupt the whole place. He was restless too, running around the whole house as if looking for someone, likely his owner. But they didn't understand or try to understand him. All they cared about was that he didn't behave the way they wanted him to. So one day they took the dog outdoors and abandoned him there. Now that Dr. Thomas had pieced together the dog's tragic story with the information begrudgingly provided by the family members, he decided to try a different approach to heal the dog's troubled mind. That day, he walked into the dog's room and slowly approached him. The dog had already grown accustomed to Dr. Thomas' presence and scent, so he felt a bit comfortable around him. What this vet did next is truly heartwarming. The veterinarian gently lowered himself to the floor in front of the dog. As he settled, the veterinarian began to sing a soothing and emotional song. The melody filled the room, creating an atmosphere of tranquility and comfort. Remarkably, the impact was immediate. The dog, who had been keeping to himself in the corner, started to emerge from his hiding spot. Slowly, he made his way to sit beside the vet. A soft sigh escaped the dog's mouth, and he gently wagged his tail. For once, the dog's once sad eyes flickered with joy. Feeling that the dog required more than just a song, the vet stood up and hugged the shivering dog. The hug was full of comfort and reassurance, giving the dog a feeling of safety he hadn't felt in a while. The bond created between the vet and the dog surprised everyone at the clinic. The difference was amazing. Thanks to Dr. Thomas, the dog who used to be shy started to have a lot of fun and play with other animals at the clinic. After a while, the vet realized he really cared about the dog. He didn't want the dog to go back to the shelter, especially because they had come so far together. So he decided to take the dog home and be its owner. This way, they could keep helping each other and be friends forever, making sure the dog never had to go back to the sad times it had before. What do you think of this beautiful act that the vet did? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you liked this story. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.